What if the world's most expensive fighter jet, the F-35, was quietly outpaced not by a superpower, but by a militia that learned how to spot ghosts in the sky? In early 2025, a desert war became a stress test nobody expected. Infrared eyes on the ground began to blunt America's stealth crown, rattling a $428 billion promise of air dominance. And that's when two new names slipped into the conversation like a plot twist. Boeing's F-47 and Lockheed's F-55, pitched as a dynamic duo, a sixth-gen Shadow and a Ferrari upgrade built to survive what the F-35 couldn't. If a patchwork air defense can force a redesign of the future, imagine what a peer rival could do. So here's the real question. Are these jets a leap forward, or damage control with wings? For years, the F-35 Lightning II was the crown jewel of American air power, a $100 million masterpiece designed to dominate the skies. It could vanish from radar, see 360 degrees through its helmet, and promise a new age of invisible warfare. But in early 2025, that illusion was shattered above the dusty skies of Yemen. During Operation Rough Rider, U.S. jets met something the Pentagon didn't expect: a guerrilla force that learned to hunt ghosts. The Houthis, armed with cheap Iranian infrared sensors, could see what radar couldn't. Stealth was no longer a cloak, it was a myth. Within weeks, Reaper drones worth tens of millions were falling from the sky, and even F-35 pilots reported lock-on warnings that should have been impossible. The campaign cost over $1 billion and ended without air superiority. No F-35s were lost, but confidence was. The jet built to survive World War III was nearly bested by homemade missiles and solar-powered radar traps. Inside the Pentagon, the question no one wanted to ask became unavoidable. If a militia can rattle America's stealth fleet, what could a superpower do? But what happened next didn't just change America's defense strategy, it ignited a secret race to build the impossible. When the smoke cleared over Yemen, two giants of the defense world saw opportunity in disaster. Boeing moved first, unveiling what it called the F-47, a sixth-generation Phantom built to outthink enemy radars. Not to be outdone, Lockheed Martin countered with something bolder: the F-55, a machine so advanced they called it the Ferrari of the skies. Together, they were branded the dynamic duo, the F-47, aimed squarely at China's stealth advances, and the F-55, designed to punch through Russia's next-gen air defenses. On paper, it looked like America was already living in the future. But behind the press conferences and polished promo videos, the truth was less glamorous. These jets were born from panic. The F-55 wasn't the result of steady innovation. It was damage control. Lockheed had lost the Air Force's next-generation contract to Boeing's F-47, and they needed to claw back relevance fast. Their answer: take the F-35's body, tear out its single engine, and rebuild it into something new. Faster, stronger, and impossible to ignore. Boeing's F-47 was the ghost, silent, unseen. Lockheed's F-55 was the fighter that refused to die, a twin-engine beast meant to survive the unthinkable. And between them, a rivalry began to brew. One that would decide not just the future of American air dominance, but who truly controlled the next era of war. But what if the F-55 isn't really an upgrade at all? What if it's a cover-up for something the Pentagon doesn't want you to see? After losing the sixth-generation Air Force contract to Boeing's F-47, Lockheed refused to accept defeat. Deep inside their Fort Worth division, engineers began working off the books, re-engineering the F-35 architecture into a new aircraft built to do what the Lightning II couldn't. The F-55 would be faster, tougher, and smart enough to survive in the Pacific's long-range nightmare scenarios. Twin engines, expanded AI systems, a new radar skin rumored to breathe like a living organism. But the real twist came when whispers linked the program to the U.S. Miss Navy's F/A-X project, the mysterious successor to the F/A-18 Super Hornet. The Navy has always favored twin-engine fighters for carrier use, and the F-55's rumored specs lined up perfectly. The official documents were redacted, but traces of shared funding appeared in Navy procurement logs. Someone was blurring the line between two programs. Intentionally. Why hide it? Because a shadow project avoids Congress, avoids public scrutiny, and avoids accountability. It lets corporations build the future, while the public thinks they're just tweaking the past. Inside Lockheed, engineers quietly joked that the F-55 wasn't just a fighter, it was a second chance. Inside the Pentagon, a few nervous analysts warned it was something worse, a secret built on the wreckage of the last one. But to understand why the F-55 even exists, you need to see how stealth itself stopped being a weapon and started becoming a weakness. For decades, stealth was the magic word. It turned fighter jets into legends, invisible, untouchable, godlike in the sky. But technology doesn't stay one-sided for long. The same innovation that once hid American aircraft is now helping enemies find them. Modern battlefields are no longer ruled by radar alone. Infrared tracking, AI-assisted targeting, and quantum sensor arrays are rewriting the rules of air combat. The Yemen incident proved what defense scientists had whispered for years. Stealth doesn't make you invisible, it just makes you predictable. When you depend on being unseen, the moment someone finds a new way to see, your entire advantage collapses. China's experimental ghost nets, thousands of tiny drones working together to triangulate aircraft heat signatures, are closing the gap faster than expected. Russia's Checkmate program is developing radar systems that use passive signals, reading reflections from cell phone towers, and even Wi-Fi networks. Against this new generation of digital hunters, stealth coatings and radar jammers aren't enough. That's why the F-55 doesn't just hide, it adapts. Its new systems are said to monitor incoming signals in real time, reshaping its electromagnetic footprint mid-flight. It's less about disappearing and more about confusing everything that's looking for it. In other words, stealth is no longer about being unseen. It's about being unpredictable. And if that sounds like science fiction, remember, so did the F-35, until it started losing sight of itself. But the real secret of the F-55 isn't its engines or its stealth. It's what's inside the cockpit and who might be sharing control. The F-55 isn't just an aircraft, it's a machine that learns. Lockheed's engineers describe it as a living system, and that's not exaggeration. Hidden beneath its sleek titanium skin lies a neural co-pilot, an AI combat assistant trained on millions of simulated dogfights. It can anticipate missile locks before the pilot even reacts, reroute power across the wings mid-turn, and whisper corrections that no human reflex could match. Twin engines give it brute endurance, more thrust, more range, more survival odds. In the Pacific, that matters. A single hit to the F-35's lone engine means a fiery fall. The F-55, by contrast, can limp home with one burning. It's designed for the wars America doesn't want to fight. The long, remote conflicts where rescue isn't guaranteed. Its skin isn't paint. It's an adaptive surface, capable of altering its infrared signature on the fly. To radar, it might look like a bird. To heat sensors, a drifting drone. One test pilot called it a shapeshifter made of math. Inside, its helmet-mounted system merges human vision with the plane's sensors, letting the pilot see through the jet. A panoramic battlefield in full 360-degree clarity. The F-55 was built not just to fight, but to think. Every flight feeds its neural network. Every engagement makes it faster, smarter, harder to outguess. It's not a weapon. It's a feedback loop of evolution in the sky. And yet, that brilliance hides a question few dare to ask. If the jet can think faster than its pilot, who's really in control? Because what started as an upgrade may be crossing into something entirely different. And not everyone inside the Pentagon is comfortable with that. On paper, the F-55 is a marvel of engineering. But behind closed doors, it's a political minefield. Every part, every budget line, every leak is tied to someone's ambition and someone else's silence. Lockheed Martin isn't just building a fighter jet. it's waging a corporate war. After losing the Air Force's top contract to Boeing, Lockheed needed a comeback. The F-55 became that lifeline, a story of redemption marketed as national defense. Lobbyists flooded Washington with promises: cheaper maintenance, faster deployment, American jobs. What they didn't mention was that the cost of those promises quietly doubled in classified budget reports, and then came the branding masterstroke. When former President Donald Trump started calling it the F-55, the name stuck. It was catchy, patriotic, and impossible to oppose. Overnight, what had been a shadow project turned into a political trophy. Congress couldn't vote against it without appearing anti-military. Lockheed didn't just build a jet, they built a narrative. Meanwhile, inside the Pentagon, unease began to spread. Some analysts warned that the F-55's AI-driven systems might not always obey pilot overrides during high-speed evasions. Others pointed out that too much reliance on adaptive intelligence could lead to unpredictable behavior mid-combat. But those warnings were buried under a mountain of contracts and campaign donations. Even the US Navy's rumored involvement added layers of secrecy. Funding overlaps hinted that the F-55 might be part of the Navy's FAX successor, or perhaps a testbed for an even more classified drone fighter hybrid. Either way, money flowed, questions vanished, and the project grew. In the end, the F-55 isn't just a plane. It's a symbol of what happens when innovation, politics, and ego collide at Mach 2. A weapon born not from necessity, but from pride. One that might fly America into a future it isn't ready to face. And as the skies fill with rivals developing their own machines, one chilling question lingers. Did the F-55 save US air dominance, or quietly begin its end? The unveiling of the F-55 didn't just shift American defense strategy, it sent shockwaves across the planet. Within months, foreign intelligence networks scrambled to catch up. Beijing accelerated its Dark Sword stealth drone project, rumored to fly faster than sound and think faster than a pilot. Moscow doubled down on its Su-75. Checkmate, marketing it as the People's Stealth Fighter, a cheaper answer to America's invisible empire. Even Europe joined the race, pouring billions into Project Tempest, a coalition-built aircraft meant to keep NATO relevant in a sky increasingly ruled by algorithms. The new arms race isn't about missiles or dogfights anymore. It's about data. The nation with the smartest code, not the fastest jet, will rule the skies. In war games, analysts already see a shift. Simulated battles where human pilots last less than 30 seconds against AI-driven squadrons. The battlefield is no longer about courage, it's about computation. For the first time, American pilots whisper doubts they were trained never to voice. What happens, one asked off-record, when the machine decides we're the weak link? The F-55's autonomous systems are supposed to assist, not replace, but history has a way of rewriting intentions. And yet, beyond the politics and paranoia, one truth remains. Humanity built these machines to protect itself, and may have built them too well. In chasing invisibility, we've made ourselves blind. The F-55 isn't just another aircraft, it's a mirror, reflecting our obsession with control, power, and the illusion of safety. Maybe the real enemy isn't in the sky at all. Maybe it's the idea that we can perfect war without becoming part of it. Because the moment the F-55 takes off on its first mission, the countdown begins. Not to victory, but to the day the machines stop asking for permission. The F-55 was born out of panic, refined through rivalry, and launched into a world already shifting beneath it. What began as an answer to one jet's flaws has become a symbol of the new era. One where machines don't just serve humanity, they interpret it. The F-35 promised dominance through stealth. The F-55 promises survival through intelligence. But survival isn't victory. And intelligence isn't loyalty. In a hangar somewhere, engineers are teaching the next prototype how to think faster, aim sharper, and question less. Across the ocean, rival nations are doing the same. No one wants another world war, yet everyone is building the tools to win it. That's the paradox of progress. every innovation that keeps us safe also brings us closer to the edge. So when you hear the roar of a jet overhead, remember this. It might not just be a pilot up there. It might be the future, watching, learning, and deciding what humanity's next move will be. Because the real war isn't about who has the better fighter. It's about who still remembers what they're fighting for.